Okay, so how do we finally end up at war? How do we end up in World War Two? Well, it's all to do with Poland, effectively. Hitler, believe it or not, had always actually hoped to have an alliance with the Polish government. He had concluded a non-aggression treaty with them in 1934, and he had always hoped to bring Poland into an alliance with Germany because Poland was right next door to Russia. Remember, Hitler's long-term plan is Lebensraum, it's living space. To the east, he wants to conquer the Ukraine. The way that he believes Americans had conquered the plains and had conquered their way across North America and had created an empire he called the United States of America, he wanted to do something similar to Russia. But he's got a problem. He's got this new country called Poland, created after World War One, which sits in between him and Russia. And it also divides Germany in two. Germany's got East Prussia, which is divided by this corridor that Poland has to the sea. So Poland's a problem to Hitler, but his initial way of thinking about Poland is it would make an excellent ally. Poland was a dictatorship, and Poland also was extremely anti-Semitic. It hated Jewish people. As a matter of fact, up until 1938, a German undergoing persecution in Germany, a German Jew undergoing persecution in Germany, quite often would say, well, life might be bad here in Germany, but it's not as bad as it is for Jews in Poland. Now, 1938, that begins to change when you get Kristallnacht and there were a number of pogroms and the laws got much more severe. But up until that stage, a lot of German Jews comforted themselves with the thought, well, it might be bad for us here, but at least we're not living in Poland. So Poland did seem to be a bit of a natural ally. Poland had actually fought against Russia in the 1920s and had defeated the Russians when they tried to invade Europe, so it had defeated the communists before. But Poland believed that its best safety lay in remaining neutral between Germany and Russia. Poland believed really that if it stayed neutral, then its security was absolutely copper fastened. The Polish idea was, well, look, if Russia invades us, well, Germany will come to our defence. If Germany invades us, Russia will come to our defence. Our best bet is to play them off against each other. And that began to infuriate Hitler. And by 1938, he decided he'd had enough. He was going to invade Poland. And he gave a number of speeches to the party members and to people saying, look, we've had enough of the Polish. We're going to go in. We need living space to the east. And he also believed that Britain and France would not go to war. He had learned completely the opposite lesson to Chamberlain. Remember, Chamberlain, after the Czechoslovakian crisis, had decided that this man is going to go to war. Hitler wants war. We have to be ready to stop him next time he moves. And he's beginning to get Britain ready for war. Hitler has drawn completely the opposite conclusion. He has decided that Britain will not go to war for anywhere in Eastern Europe. So Hitler has made a mistake here. He thinks that Britain will not go to war. As a matter of fact, Neville Chamberlain has made the opposite decision, and he's getting Britain ready for a war. However, Germany's still pretty isolated. Italy, Mussolini isn't too keen on a war just yet. He's not ready to jump in on Hitler's side just yet. And he won't come in on Hitler's side until 1940, until Britain and France are getting a hiding from the Germans and the Italians decide to invade France and get absolutely hammered by the French. But that's a slightly different story that doesn't concern us. Mussolini's not hot on the idea of a war. Even Hermann Göring isn't hot on the idea of a war. He believes this time that the British will intervene. Everybody's pretty convinced that this is not a great time to go to war except Hitler and his closest allies within the German government. And one other person, Joseph Stalin. Now, this is absolutely incredible. Joseph Stalin, after the Czechoslovakian crisis, feels isolated. Remember, there was that peace conference in Munich, and everybody was invited except the Czechoslovakian government and the Russians. And at this stage, Stalin looks at Europe and he thinks, oh my goodness, the British and the French are going to use the Germans to attack us. I mean, this is their plan. They don't want to go to war themselves, but they're going to use Germany to do it. And in the late 1930s, 1938, Stalin was reorganising his military by shooting about a third of the officers in it. corporate hiring and firing didn't really go with Stalin's philosophy of government. He just generally shot people who he thought might not be loyal. So his military was in a bit of a mess, and he knew that. So he wasn't ready for war. So he's casting about for ideas to delay war until he can get his military the way that he wants it. He wants to delay war. And then lo and behold, Joachim von Ribbentrop, who's the German foreign minister, approaches his foreign minister called Molotov and says, do you fancy doing a deal over Poland? And at this stage, Stalin thinks, great. The pair decided that Hitler and Stalin between them, or it was Ribbentrop and Molotov who met. Hitler, there's a famous cartoon of Hitler and Stalin shaking hands over the corpse of Poland, but these two men never met in real life, which is a real shame. I think comedy could have done a great deal with that scene. But the two of them never met. But the deal that Hitler and Stalin worked out between them through their foreign ministers, Molotov the Russian and Ribbentrop the German, was that Germany could have could have the western part of Poland, and that would reunite the two bits of Germany, East Prussia, the rest of Germany would be reunited. And Russia would invade and take the eastern part of Poland. And that way they would divide the country between them. And it would sort of cement a strong alliance between the two. Now, neither man expected this alliance to last very long. They expected maybe half a decade, 4 or 5 years. Hitler a little less. Hitler's getting ready to invade much earlier than this. But Stalin thinks until the mid-1940s, Hitler won't invade Russia until the mid-1940s. So this is a deal about buying time for Stalin. Stalin wants to buy time to get the Russian military ready. And so he says, right, well, we're going to have a Nazi-Soviet pact. We'll shake hands. And I'll be Hitler's friend for a little while until I get my army ready. Because he knew that Hitler was coming for Russia. He knew he was going to have to go to war with Hitler. But he thought, well, not yet. We'll delay it a while. What Hitler gets out of it is that there is no way that Britain and France will be able to effectively defend Poland if both Russian troops and German troops are going into it. And he thinks that will maybe deter them from declaring war on Germany. In the end, what Britain and France did is they declared war on Germany, but not on Russia. So that was their way out of that dilemma. But the other thing that Hitler gets out of this is he gets his border with Russia. Remember, he has to invade Russia, but no longer through Poland. It's just that Russia will move its border. It'll invade eastern Poland. So Russia and Germany are going to be right next door to each other. Hitler gets the western half of Poland. He gets to reunite his country. It's the beginning of living space to the east. And Hitler really doesn't think that Germany and France will invade. That France and Britain will invade or will go to war for Poland. Unfortunately for him, Britain had pretty much decided at the next stage, at the next step that Hitler took, we were going to have to stop him. That Hitler was not open to negotiation, that he was not open to reason, that the only way that you could stop a man like Hitler was with force. And so in September, 1st September 1939, Britain and France declared war on Germany after Germany invaded Poland. What Hitler did is he sent some Germans across the border, and they shot up a few things, and then they came back dressed as Polish troops and shot up a few radio stations in Germany and made it look as if Polish militia or Polish terrorists had attacked Germany. And so he invaded, and Britain declared war. So there was Hitler's sleepwalk, if you like, the certainty of the sleepwalker that he talked about, but it was more of a gamble. Hitler was a continual gambler. And to some extent, his luck ran out in 1939.